Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bridging Impact podcast. It is Coach's Corner because it's Friday, and Coach Furtado, myself, I release an episodes on Friday if you're new here, and we pass wisdom from what I've been learning from my experiences. I've been sharing, and I like to think of myself as a lifelong learner. I'm always trying to be a sponge, always, reading new things, always listening to podcasts, listening to books, and just trying to learn and be intuitive and reflect, because I feel like as coaches, as youth sports parents, we want to always be growing. And if we want to be leaders, we have to lead by example. And I feel like the best leaders are always, leading and growing and learning and reflecting and talking. And that's why I love this Friday podcast, is because I get an opportunity to really think about what I've been learning about and how I can make it digestible and share it with you all. And so today, I want to talk about how we do things. A lot of times we talk about what we do, right? Like I'm thinking about specifically for sports, let's take shooting for basketball. We all know that we have to shoot constantly, nonstop, and put a lot of reps in if we want to become a better shooter. But there's actually more to that as we level up. And even at the youth level, I would say, how are you shooting those reps? What do those reps look like, right? And I still think that's the how. And are you going 100% game speed, or are you going through the motions? And it's the same thing when you're showing up as a coach or a parent, right? How you show up, and are you on your phone when you are with, your kids, right? Or you as a coach, are you, on your phone? How, are you showing up late? And if you are showing up late, did you communicate that? And when you show up late, do you walk your feet in, or you like, let's go? Or how do you connect with your athletes? A lot of those are different things, and the how actually ends up mattering more than the what, because the how is what consistently gets done every single day. So if I'm going to, again, we're going to take shooting. We're going to use shooting as our example throughout the day, but it can be applied to anything. Thinking about, weightlifting or eating healthy, sleeping, everything, right? How we show up day in and day out. As a shooter, I want to make sure that I always have great form, that I am consistent, and I'm always making sure that I am going full speed. So when we're thinking about that, right, I think a lot of times we think about, for me and like a lot of the coaches that I work with, I feel like they're a little more concerned about what drills am I going to do. To me, I'm more concerned about how you are going to run those drills. What energy are you going to bring? All right. What are you going to emphasize? How are you going to emphasize it? Are you going to emphasize it with body language? Are you going to emphasize it with, language, verbal, both? Right? How are you going to simplify it? Right? A lot of times when you're working with youth basketball, which is what the world I'm in, I think one of the biggest challenges coaches have is, how am I going to simplify what's in my mind and what I know to the next generation of kids? So those are the big things, right? It's that how we are going to do that. So let's break down the how, and how you can start like implementing that into your culture, into your family, into your team. And I would say the number one thing would be the how stems from your values, right? How you do things, right? So in terms of a culture, so let's take a break from shooting right now, and I'll talk a little bit about Bridging Impact Basketball and what we're building behind the scenes. And a lot of what I'm doing right now is thinking about the how, right? Because we're starting a basketball organization. It's not like we're inventing a new sport. There are a ton of basketball organizations out there, right? But how we do things, how we conduct ourselves is, thinking about in terms of cupcakes, right? If we are all selling cupcakes, all of our basketball organizations, how we do things is our secret recipe for our frosting and our sprinkles, right? That's the how we do things is the frosting and the sprinkles, right? The what is basketball, right? And I'm not creating a new sport. My business partner and I, we're not creating a new sport. What are we doing? We are educating, we are empowering, we are transforming leaders on the basketball court. We're teaching about discipline. We are teaching about how to show up. I'm talking about body language. I'm talking about how you're locking in. I'm talking about how you respond to a miss. I'm talking about how you interact with your teammates on a daily basis. Those are the things that we are going to be talking about every single day. And when I'm coaching at Venice, that's where we are going to be. There is going to be a level of energy that is required. Even if you're tired, you are going to give your best. You're still, no matter how tired you are, right? You may not be the most vocal, and that's fine, but you can definitely leave high fives. All right. You can definitely, if you're not a high five, if you're not a rah-rah person, you're definitely going to lead by example. Right. And then the leadership's going to look different, but we have to emphasize that. And that's what it's going to look like for Bridging Impact Basketball. And so a couple of how questions that you can ask yourself and your team is like, okay, how are we, number one, how are we going to conduct practice? What does it look like? How are we going to control the tempo of the practice? Right? How are we going to make sure that we connect daily with our athletes? How are we going to empower our athletes to make decisions? How are we going to make sure that all of our teammates feel connected? Right? Those are a few questions. I bet you can start rattling off some how questions right now. And that's what's really exciting, is because the how is what is the biggest differentiator from you and your program. And at the end of the day, your how may look different from season to season because you have different players, right? And so for example, right, you have a taller team, you're probably your practice, you're probably going to be focusing maybe a little more around the rim. Maybe you're longer on defense, so you get to run a few different looks, right? But if you're shorter and you're quicker, right, maybe you're running, again, different looks. So how you approach each season is going to change with your personnel. And I think that is a strength of a great coach, is being able to, navigate and take what personnel is on the team to continually build on that and get better. So again, I'm curious how you show up, right? And now we're kind of overusing the word how, but I just think in general, it's an overlooked word. And I had a big epiphany because when I went to the PGC basketball camp, and I've talked about it a few times on here, these Coaches Corner episodes, that's why you have to follow, because I'm always sharing and dropping wisdom, is the standard that PGC has for that. Not only their coaches, that was the first time I worked there, but they had a standard, and for their athletes, right? You got to sprint to the next spot. All right. You got to have good body language. All right. You need to be going 110%. That's where I learned a lot of this from. Right. And I was like, oh, and it was different. Like, it's just the energy in there. You're clapping, you're high-fiving. The energy in there felt different than a lot of the basketball organizations and places that I've been in. So you as a leader set the tone for how things are done, and then making sure that you are praising for when you see things going well and how you're done. I see you going hard. I see you, Jimmy. All right. And then challenge when you don't see it. All right. We'll use Jimmy again as an example. Jimmy, that's 50%. I know you got more in the tank, right? That's not how we do things here. All right. Jimmy shows up late to practice. That's not how we do things here. We don't show up late, right? And with especially without communication. So, different things. So thinking about that, the how is a differentiator for your program. So again, I appreciate y'all for listening and tuning in every single week. If you got something out of this, please share it with a coach, with a friend, with a leader. We are trying to transform the next generation of leaders on the court, but even more importantly, off the court, because sports is a great opportunity to develop the next generation of leaders. And that's what we're trying to do here at Bridging Impact. Go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you follow us wherever you get the podcast. We're growing on YouTube. That's my personal account, Coach Furtado, but everything's intertwined. We're all trying to create better leaders for the next generation, because we all know our world needs it. Our world needs leaders who are going to step up and do the right thing and have the tough conversations. And that's where we start. We're starting with the youth, with youth basketball right now. And I'm really excited. So appreciate y'all. Always available on social media to talk. That's what I'm here. I create content is to connect and impact. So please reach out. I've been reaching out to a ton of different people, and that's how I learn. I just want to pass the wisdom, pass the ball to the next generation, and hope y'all have a great weekend. Coach Furtado out.